Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the difference between men and women in therapy. Note. So I received several questions about this. Hey Mark, why don't you talk about therapy with women, or why do you only market to men? Is your therapy, does it not work well for women? And no, I think it works very well for women, just in a little bit different way. And I think especially when you look at therapy and especially psychology, what it is on a fundamental level, there's really no difference between a man and a woman in the clinic. A man as a client or a woman as a client. It's different in slight ways, but ultimately not that big of a difference. Again, when we can look at fundamentally what therapy, what psychology is. So why don't I market to women? Well, because I'm bad at marketing is the answer there. But I think that the main difference between men and women in therapy, well, before we get to that, I like to think of a healthy psychology as a well-flowing river. You know, it's usually one main stream. If there's other tributaries, right, like the analogy I have in my book, if there's other tributaries, they all flow to the one main river. And it flows well. You know, it has a purpose, it has a direction. Oh, maybe there's a couple cataracts in there, yet it floods a few times, but not without fertilizing the soil, right? Now, the problem that women have when they're in therapy is, you know, they have plenty of water flowing, plenty of course, libidinal, unconscious energy flowing, but not a lot of direction for it. You know, they can't really pin it down. The river isn't deep enough to contain all the libidinal, all the unconscious energy with women in therapy. And men typically have the opposite problem. They have a great dry riverbed. It's deep. It can contain a lot more water, a lot more unconscious energy than the man is putting out or allowing himself to put out. But it's, you know, it's dammed up. So yeah, it's just about getting a well-flowing river. And the difference comes down to two main things, or two main differences between men and women in therapy. The first difference is goals, slightly different goals. Now, the main goal in therapy, I know I talked about this before in other videos, it comes down to the Oedipus complex. The main goals for your psychological health are how well you get along with authority, which includes competence, what we would typically view as success, financial success. That's one goal that we have for our psychological health. And the other goal is authority and intimacy. That's the second one, intimacy. How well we can create relations, how well we can cultivate love, how well we can connect with each other, and all that lame stuff. And typically, I mean, I know I'm going to say a lot of sexist things in this video, I'm sure I already have, but you know, that's just how it goes. Typically, women are more concerned with intimacy, men are more concerned with authority, with competence, with success, making money. Now, I do think that intimacy is ultimately more important for men than authority is for women. I mean, for men, I think of success or authority as the keystone in the arch, and all the other blocks are the intimacy and relationships and connection and all that lame stuff. Yeah, you can have success and competence without the connection, you know, without the friends and family, without those healthy, intimate relationships, but it's not going to be a full arch. It's not going to be a full life. You can do it, but nothing's there to really hold it up. It's just going to kind of lay on the ground. And that's when you have an existential crisis and ask yourself what it all means. And I have all this money, yet I feel empty inside. Yeah, it's because you don't have relationships. So that's generally the difference between men and women goal-wise. The other difference between men and women in therapy is how they process emotions. And I think this is the main difference that we're going to talk about. How we process emotions. And for this, I'm going to go to something that I kind of disagree with. You know, to the extent that I disagree with it, we don't have to get into it in this video because it's just going to take us off on a tangent. But the Jungian quaternity. The Jungian quaternity, we have thinking up here, feeling down here, sensing, and intuition. Thinking, it lets you know that something is. Feeling lets you know what something means or what its value is. Sensing lets you know, or no, thinking lets you know what something is, Sensing lets you know that something is, that thing exists. That is sensing. And intuition, that lets you know where something or someone has been and where it's going. So I said that wrong. Thinking is, what something is, sensing that it is, what it means, what its value is, and this is where something has been and where it's going. Now the goal, and in therapy, I think this quaternity is akin to, this gets your psychological car running. That's what this does. We'll get to another quaternity here, I think, in a second, but this gets your car running. So typically, what's the difference between men and women? When we look at this, I mean, what traits do men have and what traits do women have? Yeah, of course. It's sexist to say, but it's true. Women are here at sensing and feeling. So this is one of the main differences that you can kind of, generalize. It's going to be the case with a female client as opposed to a male client. Not all the time. And you usually go in there with just like, no biases. You kind of just go in, but in the maybe the back of your mind, you guess that women tend to be better at sensing, being very experiential, sensuous, and sensual. But what we mean here is sensuous, and they more in tune with their feelings. So if the goal is to get to the center, women need to be more intuitive. So what questions do you ask a woman who's very good at sensing to get more to intuitive? Well, they're very good at knowing what they're feeling it and how they're feeling it. A great question to get more to the end is, why do you feel it? What does this mean to you? Yes, you have this feeling. It's powerful and it's awesome. I do not want to diminish that in any way. It's great. That's the libidinal, that's the water flowing. What does it mean? What does it mean? I think that's an important question to ask, just to pin it down. And then from feeling, how do we go from feeling to thinking? I think generally this group of words, well, it doesn't need to be asked in this way, but okay, you have this feeling, it's powerful, it tells you what is important, let's put words to it. That's what you say, to go from feeling to thinking, let's put words to it, and then that'll generally get somebody who's a person who is a woman, it'll get them to the center. And then, for men, of course, men typically, not all the time, typically we're making generalizations here, but generalizations are helpful. It's just pattern recognition. Thinking, how do we go from thinking to feeling? Very simple. The typical therapy question is, how does that feel? And then how do we go from intuitive to sensing? So you're very good at analyzing an emotion, but you're just really not tuned in with the affect, what Jung would say, the affect of an emotion. So to go from intuitive to sensing, you'd say, you just try to zero in on the physical sensation of the feeling. So where are you feeling that? How does it feel? Not what are you feeling, but how does that feeling feel? Just to get more, sensuous, and who knows, more sensual. As a result, mind-body dichotomy does not exist, right? So this is, the Jungian way of looking at it, and this is how I typically view the difference between men and women in therapy, which really isn't much of a difference. It's just a little shift you make. I don't even think about it consciously. And of course, men can be high feeling, high sensing, but generally speaking, right? And then, of course, the other, just to bring it up, the other quaternity I think is probably more fundamental is the one that I've talked about before. This is where we get our archetypes from. So we have compassion up here. It's a P. We have confidence down here. We have analytical decision making, and we have more intuitive, experiential decision making. This is knowledge. This is experience. Low battery. Okay, close. This is knowledge. This is experience. This is philosophy. This is deduction. This is more induction. I was going to think compassion, right? Compassion, this is more of a motherly energy. This is how well we manage our anger. And this is confidence, more of a fatherly energy. This is how we manage our anxiety. And then this, of course, is where we get king, warrior, magician, lover. This quaternity gets your car running. This tells you where to go on the map. This is where you need to go. This is how well you can get there. The closer you get to the center, the faster you can move, and with more assurance you can move. I do have some disagreements with these. because putting it in the quaternity format, it implies, for example, that the more deductive you are, necessarily the less inductive you are. That's not necessarily the case. But I think not a quaternity so much. I mean, you could kind of frame it as a quaternity, but the diagram that I think that transcends both of these is, of course, my emotional diagrams. And that's, you don't need to be concerned with these two quaternities anymore when you understand it on this level. We'll just go through anxiety. So how does this look? This is anxiety. And where do we get anxiety from? This is from my book, of course, and I have a bunch of videos on this. This is a threat and a loss. So the threat or the loss comes in, causes anxiety. We can do three different things with the anxiety. We can avoid it. This becomes OCD. We can use it in a destructive way. This is helplessness, the ness of being helpless. And we can use it in a constructive way. And this is where we get confidence. This is confronting the threat and the loss exactly for what it is, which we can only do when we feel the anxiety. And of course, we have the line of consciousness and unconsciousness. So this lets us know, not only does this integrate all these parts of these quaternities, but it lets us know exactly how to do it. In a way, whether you're a man or a woman, it ultimately doesn't matter. I mean, it shifted a little bit based on whether you're SFNT, and whether you're a king, warrior, magician, lover, but honestly, not that much, not enough to make a difference. So, I mean, this tells us what to do. I mean, the first thing we talk about is the facts. We got to look at the facts. What is the threat? What is the loss? What is the situation? The next thing we do is the feels. How does it feel? Okay, anxiety. But what exactly is the feeling? And here's where we would go with both S, F, and T. We would just tweak it a little bit based on how somebody expresses the feeling of anxiety. So let's say the person, let's say it's a dude, very good at analyzing it, very good at thinking about the anxiety, not so much feeling it. Then I would tend to ask more questions that get you down to F. How does it feel? What exactly are you feeling? Where do you feel it? What exactly is the sensation of the anxiety? Let's really feel it. And then from here, we go to responsibility. Meaning. What does it mean? Which is essentially just asking, why do you have this feeling? And what does this do? We go down here to this unconscious baggage, and we bring it up. All this unconscious, right? This is a line of everything above the line is conscious, everything below is unconscious. We bring the feeling up. What does it mean? Oh, there's these things from my past. And then we go to responsibility. This helps bring up anything down here. And then when we ask, what does it mean? How is it your responsibility? Not how is it your fault? Big difference. How is it your responsibility? This brings up the issue here. We're up in anxiety. And not only are we feeling the anxiety, but we have the meaning and the responsibility. We are integrating all these functions at once. And then when we're feeling it, we're much more likely then to do whatever it is we need to do to confront the threat and the loss for what it is. And if you don't do it, if you get up here and like, oh, this is too heavy, I'm going to go back down here. Okay, that's fine. Go back down here. Let's go through it again. Facts, feeling. What does it mean? Why are you feeling it? Go as many whys deep as we can. Why? Responsibility. How is it your responsibility? And then we get up here again. And then eventually, you do this enough, and I guarantee you, we will confront the issue for what it is, because it'll just be too unbearable. That what the issue is on an existential level is just be too obvious after we talk through it in a healthy enough way. And that's how we get to there. And this transcends both masculine, or both men and women. Both of these quaternities. Of course, women tend to be here. Men tend to be here. That was too obvious. Did I even need to say that? And this is what we can help you with here, right? I think there's a lot of therapy out there, but not all therapy is created equal. I mean, what we do is we look at it on a fundamental way. If you guys have any questions or if you're interested in finding out more, we do free consultations. animusempire.com/schedule. Thank you guys for watching. And remember, how well you do in therapy doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. It all comes down to how well you can accept yourself as a human.